Most people won't admit it, but respect has very little to do with goodness. Machiavelli saw this clearly. He believed that humans are driven not by fairness or gratitude, but by perception, fear, self-interest, and the subtle cues of strength or weakness that radiate from a person's behavior long before they ever speak a word. And because people misunderstand this, they chase respect the wrong way. They try to be liked. They try to be agreeable. They try to be endlessly understanding, and every time they do that, they confirm something dangerous without realizing it, that they are safe to ignore. What Machiavelli understood, and what most people refuse to confront, is that respect is not granted. It is extracted, not through cruelty, but through clarity, not through aggression, but through boundaries, not through manipulation, but through the mastery of yourself. Respect begins long before anyone else sees you. Respect starts inside. Most people want external validation because they haven't cultivated internal authority. You can feel it in someone's energy when they haven't made peace with their own decisions, when they second-guess themselves, when they're waiting for the world to tell them they're doing the right thing. And when others feel that, they don't respond with admiration, they respond with dominance, entitlement, or indifference. Think about someone in your life who commands respect, not a celebrity, not a fictional character, a real person, someone you've seen up close. Maybe they don't talk much, but when they do, people listen. Maybe they don't try to be the center of attention, but when they enter the room, the atmosphere shifts. Maybe they don't raise their voice, but their silence carries more weight than most people's speeches. That's not an accident. That's not luck. That's not personality, that's presence. And presence is built by the decisions you make in private decisions about how you treat yourself, how you respond to challenge, how you handle disrespect, and how you carry the responsibilities of your own existence. Machiavelli believed that respect and fear often overlap, not fear as in terror, but fear as in awareness. The awareness that you are not someone who can be mistreated without consequence. The awareness that you hold yourself to a standard others cannot casually lower. The awareness that your boundaries are not suggestions, but rules. And you don't need to announce those rules. You don't need to lecture anyone. You don't need to threaten anything. You simply need to live in such a way that people can feel the line before you ever draw it. Think about the last time someone pushed you further than you were comfortable with, emotionally, socially, professionally. Did you push back? Or did you try to preserve the peace? And if you did try to preserve the peace, did you feel respected afterward? Or did you feel the quiet embarrassment of knowing you abandoned yourself in that moment? This isn't about arrogance. This isn't about domination. This is about self-honor. People can't respect you if you keep walking away from yourself. Machiavelli warned that humans naturally exploit what is freely offered. It's not always malicious, it's instinctual. If you give someone unlimited access to your time, they will eventually assume your time doesn't cost you anything. If you give someone endless patience, they will subconsciously assume you don't need respect to function. If you allow small disrespect to slide, larger disrespect will follow, and none of that is personal. It's just human nature. You can be the most caring person in the world, but if you do not pair your kindness with strength, you will be treated like a convenience. Respect is tied to scarcity. Not scarcity of affection, but scarcity of tolerance for nonsense. Scarcity of availability. Scarcity of emotional labor. Scarcity of apologizing for things that don't require an apology. When people know that you will walk away from disrespect, you suddenly become someone they don't want to lose. When people know that your self-worth doesn't depend on their approval, you become someone they admire. When people know that your boundaries are not negotiable, you become someone they respect. Drop this in the comments. I choose respect over approval. Machiavelli also believed that respect is rooted in consistency. A person who is sometimes strong and sometimes weak confuses the world around them. But a person who is consistently firm, consistently clear, consistently aligned with their own principles, even if those principles make them seem strict at times, earns lasting respect. People always test you in the beginning. They want to see if your boundaries are real or temporary. They want to see if your standards are genuine or cosmetic. They want to see if you will enforce your rules when it's uncomfortable. And once they learn that you will, something shifts. They adapt. They behave. They take you seriously. Think about history. Every respected figure, even the gentle ones, had firmness. Every admired leader, even the kind ones, had an edge. Every person who left a legacy, even the peaceful ones, had boundaries made of steel. People admire compassion, but they follow strength. They respect kindness, but they obey clarity. They love humility, but they only honor it when it stands on a foundation of inner authority. People say they want to be respected, but they live in ways that contradict it. They overshare with those who haven't earned their trust. They tolerate behavior that violates their own values. They say yes to invitations, conversations, and obligations that drain their spirit because they fear disappointing someone. They let the world pull them in every direction because they don't believe they have the right to define their own path. Respect begins when you start disappointing the right people, those who only value you when you're convenient. Machiavelli understood that humans admire decisiveness. Even wrong decisions can earn respect if they're made boldly and corrected wisely. But hesitation, indecision, wavering between what you know is right and what you hope will please others, that weakens your aura. People follow those who know what they're doing, or at least act like they do. Confidence isn't perfection, it's commitment. Respect also grows from emotional control. People who can't regulate their reactions become easy to manipulate. If you get angry too fast, people can provoke you. If you get hurt too easily, people can guilt you. If you get flustered under pressure, people can dominate you. But when you hold your composure, when you stay calm, grounded, structured, people instinctively classify you as someone with internal power. And internal power is the strongest currency in human interaction. Silence is another tool. When you don't rush to fill quiet moments, when you don't scramble to explain yourself, when you don't spill your thoughts just to avoid discomfort, you gain leverage. People become curious about your mind. They become cautious with their words. They become aware that you are not someone who can be easily read or controlled. Selective generosity is also crucial. Give with intention, not compulsion. When your kindness is scarce, people value it. When your time is structured, people respect it. When your affection is earned, people cherish it. And above all, Machiavelli believed that respect begins with the relationship you have with yourself. If you break your own standards, others will break them too. If you tolerate what drains you, others will add to the weight. If you betray yourself, others will sense it and treat you accordingly. But when you honor your own word silently, consistently, you build a presence so strong it becomes a shield. Drop this in the comments. My presence has value. This is the first half. If you want respect, everything begins within you. Your boundaries, your emotional discipline, your silence, your decisiveness, your willingness to walk away, and your commitment to not abandoning yourself. Machiavelli didn't teach manipulation, he taught sovereignty. And sovereignty is the root of respect. If you want respect, understand this. The world doesn't respect the person who tries to convince everyone of their goodness. The world respects the person who doesn't need to explain themselves at all. Machiavelli believed that power is not in words, but in the quiet certainty of someone who acts with intention. People can sense when you're grounded. They can sense when you've made peace with your own principles. They can sense when your identity is self-built rather than socially constructed. And when someone stands in that level of inner authority, the world instinctively adjusts around them. One of the most powerful shifts you can make, if you want respect, is to stop performing emotional labor for people who haven't earned the right to receive it. When someone comes to you with chaos, you don't always have to rescue them. When someone brings drama, you don't have to get pulled into their storm. When someone demands an explanation, you don't have to justify your boundaries. Machiavelli understood that the person who keeps their inner world orderly naturally becomes a figure others look to for structure. But if you get dragged into every emotional wave around you, you communicate something subtle but dangerous. Your internal state is accessible to anyone who wants to influence it. People respect those whose emotions are not easily hijacked. This is why Machiavelli valued restraint. Not repression, restraint. The ability to feel emotion deeply yet respond deliberately. Most people react immediately, giving away their power in the first 5 seconds of stress. They raise their voice. They panic. They justify themselves. They overshare. They reveal their insecurities in a rush of words. But the person who breathes first, evaluates second, and responds third, this is the person others take seriously. This is the person who radiates an energy that tells the room, I don't move unless I decide to. Respect requires that you don't move emotionally just because someone else moves emotionally. Think about how many conflicts in your life spiraled because you reacted without intention. How many situations you could have controlled if you had paused for 3 seconds. How many people would view you differently if you responded from grounded certainty instead of anxious urgency? Machiavelli believed that the one who maintains composure controls the direction of every interaction. When others are loud and you remain calm, your silence becomes influence. When others are chaotic and you remain steady, your steadiness becomes authority. But respect isn't only earned through how you react, it's earned through what you're willing to walk away from. Machiavelli taught that power is not in what you cling to, but in what you refuse to tolerate. Every time you stay in a situation where you're not respected, you quietly reinforce the belief that you don't deserve respect. It's not the other person's judgment that harms you, it's the internal message you send to yourself when you settle for less. And when you diminish yourself internally, the world reflects that back to you externally. People sense when you've lowered your standards. They sense when you tolerate crumbs. They sense when you're afraid to lose something, even if what you're trying to keep is hurting you. And the moment they sense that fear, they stop respecting you. But when you can walk away with dignity, even while your voice trembles, even while your heart aches, you communicate something powerful, that you value yourself more than the comfort of staying small. Humans are wired to admire those who can leave a situation that no longer aligns with their self-worth. You don't have to announce anything, you don't have to argue, you don't have to prove a point. You simply remove yourself from what dishonors you. That act alone builds more respect than any speech you could ever give. Another key aspect Machiavelli understood is that respect grows from unpredictability. Not chaotic unpredictability, but controlled unpredictability. When you are overly predictable, people stop paying attention. When they know your every reaction, your every move, your every emotional pattern, they stop treating you as someone of consequence. The person who reveals everything about themselves loses their mystique. And without mystique, there is no psychological weight behind your presence. You must create a level of mystery not to manipulate, but to protect your inner world. You don't need to reveal your plans until they're complete. You don't need to share every thought that crosses your mind. You don't need to expose your vulnerabilities to those who haven't earned your trust. Selective transparency is respect for yourself. People respect what they cannot fully predict or possess. Silence about your goals protects them. Silence about your pain fortifies you. Silence about your next move strengthens your position. Machiavelli believed in intentional secrecy because he understood that uncertainty creates leverage. If people don't know how far you're willing to go, they think twice before crossing you. If people don't know what you're capable of, they proceed with caution. Uncertainty is not weakness, it is strategic strength. Respect also comes from mastery of your environment. Not domination, mastery. The ability to read a room. The ability to understand the motives behind someone's behavior. The ability to discern the difference between someone who wants your presence and someone who wants your compliance. Machiavelli studied human behavior because he knew respect is rooted in perception. If you can see people clearly without projecting your hopes onto them, you'll navigate relationships with quiet precision. Most people look at others through the lens of what they wish were true. They assume good intentions. They expect reciprocity. They believe that fairness governs human behavior. But Machiavelli insisted that those who see the world realistically, not cynically, realistically, command more respect because they are harder to deceive. When someone realizes they cannot manipulate your perception, they start respecting your awareness. Respect grows from clarity of vision. You must also understand that respect is maintained through consequences. Not emotional outbursts, consistent consequences. If someone crosses a boundary and nothing happens, they learn that your boundaries are empty. If someone disrespects you and you argue instead of acting, they learn that your words mean nothing. If someone takes advantage of you and you continue giving, they learn that you accept exploitation as normal. Consequences teach people how to treat you, not by punishing them, but by removing access, reducing availability, limiting engagement, and withdrawing energy. When someone feels the shift, not the drama, the shift they learn. Machiavelli believed that humans learn more from loss than from lectures. If you want respect, let your silence teach. Let your absence teach. Let your standards teach. People respect what they can lose. Another aspect of respect that Machiavelli emphasized is utility, not in a transactional sense, but in the sense that you must be someone who contributes value. People respect those who can produce results, solve problems, or bring clarity. The most respected people are those who can hold their own. You don't need to be perfect. You don't need to be superior. You simply need to be competent in your own lane. Competence is power because it creates independence, and independence creates gravity. When you rely on others excessively, you communicate dependence. When you build yourself into someone who can carry their own weight, people recognize your solidity, and solidity is respected. Machiavelli understood that power belongs to those who can stand alone, even if they choose not to. People cling to the strong but take advantage of the desperate. Respect also grows through discipline. When you discipline yourself, you influence others without saying anything. The person who is disciplined in their habits, their speech, their decisions, their relationships, their boundaries is naturally respected. Discipline communicates that you value your potential. It communicates that you are not controlled by impulse. It communicates that you take yourself seriously. And when you take yourself seriously, the world has no choice but to do the same. Drop this in the comments. I stand firm. Finally, Machiavelli understood the greatest truth about respect. It is not a performance, it is a lifestyle. You cannot fake respect for long. You cannot demand it. You cannot beg for it. You cannot negotiate your way into it. Respect comes when you embody the type of person whose internal standards shape their external reality. Respect comes when you stop chasing approval and start living by principles. Respect comes when you refuse to abandon yourself. Respect comes when your actions match your worth. Drop this in the comments. I claim my respect. You want respect? then build yourself into someone who doesn't need it, because the moment you stop needing it, the world starts giving it to you.